the spirit of reconciliation, the Theatre Thoughts podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all traditional custodians of the land on which our episodes are recorded.
You know, like the tent poles that people love are still there, but there were just some songs where I was like, you know what, we can get 20 seconds out of this. We can we can trim that verse. Or honestly, like the big lesson I have learned in redrafting it is sometimes you'll have a song that's a banger, but it's just not doing enough story-wise. And that's when you go, okay, you got verse one, you got chorus one, and in verse two, we got to move somewhere else. Someone else has to start singing. Some new piece of information has to be dropped. And so there's quite a few songs where, you know, people will sit down and go, I know this song. And then halfway through the song, they'll be like, wait, what the hell? Now it's a completely different song.
You're listening to the Theatre Thoughts podcast, where we dive deep into the world of theatre and celebrate the magic of the stage. I'm your host, Justin Clark, and I'm here to guide you through insightful conversations, behind-the-scenes stories, and thought-provoking discussions about everything theatre related. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to remind you to connect with us on social media. You can follow us on Instagram at TheatreThoughtsAUS and TTPod_official for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and exclusive interviews. You can also find us on TikTok at Theatre Thoughts Australia for even more theatre goodness. And if you'd like to support the podcast and gain access to exclusive content, consider subscribing to our Patreon. So whether you're a seasoned theatregoer or just starting your journey, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this brand new episode of the Theatre Thoughts podcast. Welcome, everyone, to a very special episode of the Theatre Thoughts podcast. I am back with one of my favourite artists to chat to. We have a playwright, screenwriter, and songwriter born and raised on Gadigal land. She's best known for writing the book, music, and lyrics for the musical Fangirls, which won the 2019 Sydney Theatre Award for Best Main Stage Musical, the 2019 Matilda Award for Best Musical Cabaret, the 2020 Augie Award for Music Theatre, and the 2021 Green Room Award for New Australian Writing for Musical Theatre, and also scored an ARIA nomination for Best Original Soundtrack, and it's now coming to the UK. Yve Blake, thank you so much for coming back on.
Oh my gosh, Justin, not one of your favourites. Well, you're one of my favourite podcast hosts, babes.
Oh, stop it. You're going to embarrass
me. It's
me.
mutual. Stop it, you.
I'm so happy that you've taken the time out to chat to me, because I've been following the Fangirls UK journey pretty much religiously ever since it was announced.
Yeah, look, it's mental. Like I am speaking to you on Thursday, the 27th of June. So that means that we've got, gosh, less than 1 week and a half left of rehearsals, and it's mental. And when you were like, do you want to record a podcast? I thought to myself, with what time? But then I was like, no, I'm actually having the absolute time of my life. And I will want this as a time capsule because, yeah, it's really surreal. Justin, what the hell? I'm in London. How did that happen?
Crazy. The last time I had anything to do with Fangirls, it was at the Sydney Opera House. And now you're at the Lyric Hammersmith in London, in the West End. I mean, come on.
Okay, I've got to speak on that for a little bit. So there's this fabulous thing that is happening where everyone in Australia thinks that if something's in London, then it's in the West End.
Yes.
It actually is a system, not unlike Broadway, where you have Broadway theatres and off-Broadway theatres. And technically speaking, we are in an off-West End theatre. However, we have a West End producer, and we did get to perform at West End Live. So it's awfully confusing, and I just don't correct people.
Yeah. No,
But this is my little asterisk. This is me.
Yeah, just being like, just so you know.
So I've said it once.
But yes, you guys were at West End Live.
But you know what? Spread that rumor. Manifestation, babes.
I'm spreading it. I'm going with it.
That was mental.
Yeah.
That was mental. For anyone who doesn't know, West End Live is this mental outdoor concert they do in London. And depending on who you ask, they on the internet it says 400,000 people come. I heard 70,000 people were there. And it's just this outdoor concert for people who love musicals, and it's 100% free, and you perform on this stage, and there are huge screens, and people screech when you come on. And yeah, we got to do 2 songs. It was mental. It was like being a pop star.
Which is very in tune with the show.
True, bestie. That was really cool. It was really special, actually, to see Tom is the name of the actor who plays Harry, our fake pop star. And it was pretty special to see him up there, like really giving it to the crowd. And it really was tens of thousands of people.
It's insane. And like I said, I've been following the journey, and I'm loving just your overall energy and excitement and love for the show is palpable enough. And then, having your entire team on there, and then seeing this new cast, which are just so fully like 100% into the musical, and just seeing it from like a whole different perspective. I'm just like, this has gone from Belvoir Theatre, and now you're in London, and everyone knows it. And I'm just like, I don't know how that must feel for you personally.
Well, it's like what I'm thinking about every single day is like, on paper, I should be quite bored of this show because it's been in my life for about 8 years now. And look, there are moments where, like in February of this year when rehearsals were months away, and I was just like spit polishing tiny little lyrics and doing the 78 millionth rewrite on a scene between two people, where I was a bit like, oh, I have to do Fangirls the Musical again today. But then, you walk into a rehearsal room in London with like, and suddenly the cast isn't 7 people, it's 12 people. And of course the characters are 14. So necessarily all the actors are like 20 nothing. And for so many of them, it's their first gig out of drama school. And there's just this pervasive energy in the room of like, we're doing the play, we're doing the school play. And then suddenly I don't feel like it's been in my life for 8 years. It feels like this brand new thing. And I think like what's so surreal to me is I was 21 when I started creating this project. And now that's the age of the cast in the show. But also some of the writing in the show that hasn't changed is what I wrote at that age. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like how it feels is really trippy, but yeah, kind of just solidly euphoric. And I don't feel people ask me if I'm sick of it, and I go, no, surprisingly not, because it just brings these new legends into my life, and I feel like I've got this gift of a project that keeps me constantly reconnected to a time in my career where I was so fearless and like, and do you remember being like 21 and like nothing in the industry had hurt you yet? So you were just like, let's go. Yep. Yay. I'll kick my legs so high,
Just absolutely gunning it, just going for it.
Literally. And there's, it's amazing because something that never gets old for me is just seeing like the little wigs come out, and just seeing like the other day there was a crate on wheels that got brought into basically like a wheelbarrow almost, that was brought into the room that was just filled with rhinestone covered boots.
Oh my God.
And they just handed them out like party bags to each cast member. That's your boots, that's your boots. And I just sat there like, what is my job? All the pain was worth it. You know what I
mean? That's so good. And then as well,
really good.
Paige, the director, have you figured out the pigeon query yet? Because I've been seeing these pigeons popping up on Instagram.
We've got to give context on the pod.
Yes, give it a bit of context.
We've got to give context on the pod. So when you've written a musical and it's having its like, I mean, we've done 3 rounds in Australia, but we did a UK workshop as well. So this is kind of round 5 for us. And Paige and I have Paige, the director, and I have such a symbiotic relationship that when it comes to the design of the show, and frankly, a lot of decisions, I just let her cook. I don't, in the lead up to this rehearsal period, I haven't asked her to show me, like, what are you thinking for the video design there and the set there? Because I just know she's going to absolutely kill it. So I then show up in rehearsals and I'll just notice these little props on the side. Like yesterday, they were rehearsing a number in the show that's called Justice. And if anyone knows the show, it's like this amazing number where all these like school girls and students from across the city it's set in. And in London, that will be Sydney, because we've set it in Australia, which means we have Brits doing Australian accents, which rules. But they show up, they all gather in like a central location. And historically, like they've been holding things like they're really enraged, this group of schoolgirls. And so it's historically like one's had a baseball bat and one's had like a clarinet. But then yesterday I came in and one was just like on a scooter, and I was like, we have a scooter now. And I just saw one of the cast members like zipping around on a scooter. Wait, I got on a tangent. on the props table, there is not one but 3 fake, and I still don't know why they're there. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they're a placeholder for a different prop and they just found them in the prop store. I don't know if Paige Rattray is about to put 3 pigeons into Fangirls the Musical. I don't know, and no one will tell me. So it's actually a big feature of my Instagram stories at the moment, is me trying to get to the bottom of the pigeons.
What was the thing I wanted to ask you as a writer? So you have all this amazing stuff going on, and that's right. I wanted to talk about, because I used to be a teacher. I still do teaching on the side, and to be you've most recently been given a spot on the drama syllabus for HSC for Fangirls, and I think for me as a teacher, it's very surreal because it's very rare that you get somebody who is on the text that is still alive, that you can actually talk to them, and see like, yes, they're still doing it, they're still actually making this. And how does that feel to have that happen?
It's so surreal, Justin, because like I always say that I made this show kind of for my 14-year-old self. Like I wrote it as if like I wish I could sort of send a message in a bottle back to teenage me, and that's sort of what this whole endeavor is. So the idea that actual teenagers will study this, especially when you think about it, and like there's like one lyric in the show that talks about anal bleeding. There's a point where like Harry, the fake pop star, is singing on stage, and then a fake fan in the crowd screams out, "I want your dick," and then another fake fan screams out, "No, I want your dick." And I just go, wow, okay, really, children are the future. Let's go. Really influencing a generation there. No, it's surreal. What's crazy though is, they don't tell you. So I just was out one night. I actually was at the opening night of Groundhog Day, the musical.
Yeah.
And me and my friends, we went to McDonald's and we got a McFlurry, and suddenly my phone blew up with teachers being like, "You're on the list, girl."
No way.
Yes, I had no warning. No, but like it was amazing. It's amazing. I'm so excited. And then what's great is that teachers contact me with questions based on what the syllabus wants to know.
Yeah,
and they're like, "So how does your I'm probably making this up, but it's like, how does your play discuss social themes in Australian society?" And I'm like, yes. Or my favorite is, someone asked me, "What contemporary Australian theatre making techniques does Fangirls use?"
Yes.
And I said,
yes.
But a teacher told me that one of the answers students could give, and I love this so much, is transformational acting. Because apparently in the original production, right, when there was 7 actors, everyone had to play like 17 different roles, and so they would have to swap wigs all the time. And like, I'm thinking about Chika Ikogwe would have to change out of being a fan into being the frenemy of the main character at a breakneck pace. And apparently that's an Australian theatre making technique, because Australian budgets are typically low, and so our actors have to be good at transformational acting.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
And that's what a teacher said, like, multi-rolling is an Australian theatre making technique. There you go.
Wow, there you go. I've learnt something today.
You're not wrong, because in London, those are 2 separate parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I just think about Sharon Millerchip, who played the mum in the original Fangirls, and we had her in the back of she was in like every dance number, kicking her leg up to her earlobe. And yeah, now we actually just have like separate people doing separate things over here.
Yeah. It's very, very different. But
it's like, you can have a sip of water, actually.
Yeah, it's like, take a break. It's fine. You don't have to get in that onesie and be in the crowd. You can go for a break.
Yeah, exactly. And wear like 17 tights underneath your jeans.
Oh my God.
Changes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just to do all these roles. Isn't that funny? I never thought about that being an Australian thing. I just thought like, oh, that's innovative, because you're taking advantage of like your ensemble, and you're giving the ensemble all these parts. I never thought it was like, oh, this is very Australian because we don't have a budget to afford everyone.
Me either. I also I quite love when someone does a crazy quick change. I now have had the experience of, because I was in the original production of Fangirls, and I then got to experience actually the stress of a quick change, and I was like, fun to write, very different to perform.
Yes.
But I still love them. I'm still going to keep writing them.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Go for it. Don't apologize. Just do it. It's good fun. I love the behind the scenes stuff we're finding and seeing the quick changes. It's like a TikTok thing. Everyone does their quick changes. And I'm like, that's fascinating. And they sip their water while they're getting their clothes on and off. And I'm just like, fascinating.
Yeah, I feel the same. There's so much stuff in the production I can't talk about, but there's some quick changes here that are crazy, and they're like the different maneuvers that our design team are coming up with. There's things with magnets, there's things where you have to like pull a cord and then it unleashes a hook that like releases a harness, so someone can take this thing that is harnessed to their body off, and like Yeah, I can't talk
Incredible.
about it in specific detail, but it's so cool.
Oh, I bet it'd be so much fun just to see it. So having all these different production, like the values and like the different levels of the production is obviously so different to, I guess, where you started Fangirls on paper. And is it like, it's a stupid question because I know the answer to this. I was going to ask, is it surreal seeing it in this next level? Which I already kind of
Justin,
assumed.
it's so surreal.
Yeah, that's what
Justin,
I
the
thought.
floor of this set is an LED screen. We have flying LED screens, and then we on in the air, and then the floor is an LED screen, and it's like on a rake, so you can see it. And then this is the okay. Look, I don't know if I sound like an ass for saying this, but I'm absolutely obsessed with the fact that the choreographer that we've got is like. Do you remember Beyonce's music video for "Single Ladies"?
Yes.
And it's her and the two girlies. One
Yes.
of those girlies then choreographed for Beyonce 13 times. Then she became Doja Cat's basically full-time choreographer. I mean, she did her Coachella set. She just did the whole Scarlet tour that Doja's doing. And she's our choreographer. Are you joking me?
That's
Come on, Ebony
insane.
Williams. If,
That's
as if,
crazy.
Justin.
I saw that and I was like,
So I just feel,
no way. I was like, the Beyonce.
no, this is me. This the Beyonce. This is me every day. And I think like, I mean, um, understandably, this process is as exciting as it is nerve-wracking for me because, I didn't decide for this project to take 8 years, but that's how long it's taken. And now that we're here, I really hope it goes well. That would be very good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's wracking. I don't know what audiences will think. I really hope they embrace it like Australian audiences did, but who knows? But you know what? Like I see Ebs dancing and like her choreography, and then I see the video design and I go, you know what? Even if people don't rate the writing, they're gonna love the dance moves.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they're gonna love them.
Yeah.
So it feels like this incredible security blanket for me of like, I'm gonna do the best I can do, but nothing else is not playing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm I feel things on all these levels about it, you know? I feel it on like I'm so happy for you. I love the Australian representation. I absolutely like, and I'm going to swear here, fucking love that you've kept the Australian accents because that was the main question I had in my mind. I went, will she cut the accents? But then I went, no, because it's very typically Australian. And I love that they're keeping them.
Well, you were surprised to us. Like we had this really good fortune in 2021. We did a national tour of Australia. And around that time, the rest of the world was in lockdown, basically. Like theatre wasn't open on the West End or Broadway. So we had this incredibly lucky window where so many commercial producers were at home and they weren't busy with shows. And I think that's the reason they actually opened our emails or emails about the show and took an interest. And we were really lucky to have like 11 different meetings with commercial producers who wanted to discuss taking it overseas. But like of 11 of them, 11 out of 11 were like, you're going to keep the accent, right?
Ah,
Like, what? And I guess, I mean, you get it growing up, like, and being in love with musicals. Like, how many cast albums had an Aussie accent? None.
yeah.
Um, like international productions. I mean, of course, there are examples to the contrary, but mainly, I grew up in a world, and I was like, musicals sound American or they sound British,
Mm.
and I had painstakingly made sure every rhyme in the show was one that like works in different accents, and then to get that feedback was so surreal. And then of course our next challenge bringing it to the UK is like, I think all up we saw more than 2,000 people, and a huge part of that process was testing if people could sell an accent.
Yeah, right. Okay.
but
And
but
you
I tell you what, the people we've got are free.
Oh, I heard the main actress who's playing Edna. I heard like her and I was
Jasmine
just like,
Alcock,
"Oh my
freak,
God." Yeah.
freak,
Incredible.
absolute freak.
I was just like,
I
I
don't
didn't
know
know
what's
they were
happened. Do you think
Australian.
it's because the young people have TikTok or something?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
They have they maybe it's musical theatre people, and they're just because they already sing, they can do
Yeah.
things with their voice,
Yeah.
but they're freaks.
Incredible, hey? Ah, well, as much as we could talk about Fangirls all day, I want to put a pin in it, and I'd love to ask you our theatre thoughts questions, which I didn't get to ask you the last time you were on, and they're just kind of questions to pick
Oh,
your
really?
brain
Well,
about
we just
theatre.
gas bagging too much.
No, I didn't have them
Okay,
back
go
then.
for it. I'm ready.
Okay, cool.
Okay, she's upgraded.
Okay, here we go. The first question was, what has been your favourite production you've seen recently?
Okay, well, because I'm over in London, I saw a production called People, Places, Things, and it's actually a revival from, I think it was first on like 9 years ago, Justin, this is the best play that anyone's ever
Really?
written. It's the best one.
What?
So good. And I think it's about to go to New York. I don't think it'll come to Australia.
Ah,
It was just so good. Yeah.
really? Okay, right. All right, we'll
Yeah.
circle back to
Yeah.
that. We'll
Everyone
circle
look it
back.
up. And if you can read it, read it. I had read it before I saw it and was breathtaking. And then I saw it and I was like, yep, confirmed. This play rules.
Okay, lovely. I want to come back and I want to pick that apart. But I'd love to know a show that left you speechless.
Oh, I think I would say there's a show called Titanic that I
Oh,
saw in
yeah.
New York last year. And I think it's coming to
It
Australia.
is. It
I think it's coming
is.
to Australia. And it's just the premise is that, and this I think spoils nothing. The premise is that a bunch of tourists are attending a Titanic museum, and then the tour guide is answering questions about what went down on the Titanic, and then like a kind of old hag bursts out and goes, "That's not how it was. I remember it. I was there." And then she casts off her robe, and it's not an old hag. It's actually Celine Dion. And then Celine Dion narrates what actually happened on the Titanic. And the way that she explains what happened on the Titanic is basically the story of Titanic, but then with lots of tangents. And it's just like so camp. It's just pure queer joy. I went with my friend Sean Donahue and he laughed so hard. I was like, if this man asphyxiates, we're going to have to face the American healthcare system. I couldn't breathe and I loved that show so much. I love it so much. I'll fly to Sydney to watch it in Australia.
That's great. Well, I did see that everyone was raving about it, and I was like, this must be good because a lot of people have been seeing shown a lot
Believe
of
the hype.
excitement. Yeah, so I must believe the hype.
Believe the hype. And oi, when you go with friends who like really will scream, like who really will do the most. Don't bring a polite here to go friend.
Okay.
Do
All
you know what
right.
I mean? It's like you're going to be yelling. Yeah.
Okay. Note taken. Got it. I'd love to know then
Yeah.
what is your most, or do you have a most rewarding theatre experience for yourself?
I think, is it corny if I say Fangirls the Musical?
No.
Corny?
Go
It is
ahead.
like, well, it's just probably this show. Probably, I mean, it's like I said, like it just brings all these people into my life. And then it's really surreal now to think that 5 years ago, when I was in a school uniform, I was like backstage, like mucking around with like James and Aisha and Chika and Kim and like the original cast. And now they're all superstars and so famous. And it's just, I think there's something really special about it's just brought really special people into my life, and it's just this kind of perpetual thing that brings yeah, like I said, like young, excited, inspired people into my orbit, and I always then it kind of charges me up, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that's been really rewarding. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that
And
so.
then to say nothing of like the amazing people who loved the show in Australia, and specifically like the young people who would come and bring posters for the
Yep.
fake boy band in our show. I remember at
Yes.
the opera. I remember at the opera house, someone one time a group of people brought posters that were like horny posters for the fake boy band, and
Amazing.
someone brought a poster that just said "I'm so gay." And I just thought, yes, I'm sorry, I've made it. Like that's exactly the energy. Someone, and also there's a single lyric in the show where the fans are listing the different merch that they have, and they say, "and UGG boots with Harry's face on them." And someone wore UGG boots and then printed out the face of Blake, who was playing Harry at the time, and then sticky taped them to the UGG boots. And I was like,
Oh,
this is exactly the energy,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Just like people making like fan
Especially
art
in the
about fangirls is just everything.
but also to pull up like that to the Sydney Opera House. You know what I
Mm.
mean? That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want every time Fangirls is on, I want to create this energy in these buildings that they're not these polite spaces that are the province of like old rich white people, and
Mm.
theater is like a polite space, so it must be very serious. Like I want to take a sledgehammer to that. And I want
Yeah.
it to be like funny and giggly and cheeky and naughty and like yeah, so when audiences have met that brief
Mm.
and have come wearing whatever they want with like glitter all over their face, that's been highly rewarding.
That's so lovely.
I wonder if this podcast will be really boring, by the way, because it's literally just me being like I love Fungals. I'm having a very nice time. The end.
No, I don't think it will, because I guarantee there's fangirls out there who are getting excited for this. But then also, I'm sure, like, you watch, we're going to turn up on, like, some Year 12's lesson, and they're going to be saying, oh, let's listen to that podcast, and we'll talk about Yve Blake and how... and we'll dissect the podcast interview.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
If you're studying Fangirls in the musical for your HSC, it's not a fun experience. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry you have to do the HSC. I was so miserable that year. And I'm sorry that everyone puts pressure on you and makes it feel like the Super Bowl of your life.
Yep.
And I'm really sorry. And make sure that you sleep enough, because that year I would just stay up to like 4 a.m. just like feeling stressed about the HSC. And for what? Sorry, I really do go on a spiral, and I go, is a whole generation going to hate Fangirls because it's going to be a traumatic experience? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you never know. But I mean, what did I say? I studied Stolen and I studied Ruby Moon, and every time they come on, I go, or like it's on at the Sydney Theatre Company right now, I'm like, you know what, I'll go watch that, because I studied that in high school and I really quite enjoyed studying that. And then it kind of sticks with you.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, the last question. The last question was, which production would you most want to see come to Australia? I know you're in the UK, but back in the hometown, what would you love to see come?
Whoa. Well, Titanic is already coming, so then I've got to say People, Places, Things.
Yes, there you go.
It's so good.
Yeah, so what was it about it?
To do it, and it's got a powerhouse. Oh, it's got a powerhouse role at the center of it. It's just so... I'm struggling for words because I don't want to give away a single thing about it. I want people to come to this knowing nothing. I just think that it talks about a subject that I'm really interested in, and that I think we don't know how to talk about very well. And I think that it does that thing that like every playwright is setting out to do, which is have people walk out of the theatre and think about something differently. And that was my experience of that show.
How good.
Yeah.
That's so
but I don't want to give anything away.
That's the worst part, isn't it? I want to
keep the magic alive.
That's the worst part. You just like, I want to talk about it so badly. Like, that's how I feel whenever I talk about Never Closer
Literally.
at Belvoir. And I'm like, I can't give away the ending because everyone, like, it'll ruin everything. So I got to, like, talk about it.
I can't see that. I'm over here. Hold on, I'm going to have a sip of water, babe. Sorry.
Go ahead. Actually, I might too. So we have Fangirls coming to the UK, and there's going to be changes, obviously, because you've had a lot of different changes throughout the course of it. I've seen you making music and adding new orchestrals, I should say. So can you give us, without spoilers, what is different for those who have seen it? Any Fangirls who might see it in the UK, you know?
Well, I think we had the privilege in Australia, right, of getting to watch it against an audience 3 times over. And watching it, I learned so much about the show. And like, keep in mind, it's my first musical. So there's so much stuff that you put on the page and then you put it up and you're, maybe we should adjust that. And like, I did make some changes between the 2019 and 2021 seasons and the 2021 and 2022 seasons. But fun fact, when you remount a production, right, you just literally take like the file that is like the lighting file and you put it on again, and then you patch all the lights. And if, for example, I were to have changed a song between those productions and the song was like a different BPM or a different length, you have to then do a whole new set of lights for that song. And that then costs money. You have to bring the designer back and you have to reprogram the lights. So the only changes I actually really able to make between the seasons were changes to the scenes, because that doesn't change the lighting plot. And so it's interesting because we then did a workshop in London in 2022, right after we kind of like teamed up with our British producers. And that was amazing, because suddenly I could change the scenes, but I could also change the songs. And interestingly, that happened right before our Opera House season. So the Opera House season was really quite changed from 2021. But what's interesting is the draft that Australians saw, it's like, okay, if the first version of Fangirls in 2019 was 1.0 and the 2021 Australian tour was 2.0, and then the British script was 3.0, the Opera House script, which happened a month later, was 2.5, because it was all the cool stuff I learned in England, but I couldn't change any songs. And so, like, when the Opera House was going on, I already had made so many changes to the work. And I would say now what we have is like 4.0, because obviously since a 2022 draft. And then honestly, watching it at the Opera House, I learned more things. And so I'd say like the show is really quite different. Like like the tent poles that people love are still there, but there were just some songs where I was like, you know what, we can get 20 seconds out of this. We can we can trim that verse. Or honestly, like the big lesson I have learned in redrafting it is sometimes you'll have a song that's a banger, but it's just not doing enough story wise. And that's when you go, okay, you got verse 1, you got chorus 1, and in verse 2, we got to move somewhere else. Someone else has to start singing. Some new piece of information has to be dropped. And so there's quite a few songs where, people will sit down and they go, I know this song. And then halfway through the song, they'll be like, wait, what the hell? Now it's a completely different song.
Yeah.
So there's lots of that. And then like the big one, the big one is that I cut Edna's the protagonist, her Big I Want song called Wait and See. And I replaced it with a new one that's called Learning to Be Lonely that we just put out, which I'm really excited about. And it's like, it's a song that I think ends in the same place energetically, but starts in a really different place. And so that's a great example, right? Of taking a song and going, rather than having it be maybe a little one note, how do we make it a real journey that with a twist in it, and a moment, like a result and a revelation inside of the song.
Yeah. Was that hard to do, to say, I'm going to cut this and change it?
Terrifying. Yeah. But I think it's interesting that this is no exaggeration. That is my 13th full song that I've tried in that slot.
Wow.
And like one of the blessings of, when you have a musical and it has all these lives is you collect all these other friends who write musicals. And me and some of my friends who write musicals, we always talk about how every one of us could do a one night only concert just called This Is All the Drafts of the one song from my show. Like, there's always one song in the show that you try a million versions of. And I think I've heard that in Waitress, She Used to Be Mine. I think I've heard Sarah Bareilles did like more than 20 versions of that, like completely different songs. And I think like it doesn't surprise me that the song people often have to write 70 million times will be a song the protagonist sings and will be about like their deepest wants and needs.
Yeah, that's right. I think I saw, I was first introduced to Fangirls on 2.0. I saw the tour version in Wollongong, actually.
Okay.
So I saw Karis.
Okay. Yeah. Come on, Wollongong.
I know. Yeah, that's who I saw. And then I obviously saw 2.5, the Opera House version. So I missed the 1.0, but I'd love to see 4.0 and see where it goes.
Well, think about it, because 1.0 would have just been longer and not as tight. And it was me in the school uniform, and I can't sing like Karis or Manali. I can try, but you saw the good girls.
It was pretty damn good, to be fair. But I think that's very exciting for both any super fangirls who are going to come to London to see. Is that blowing your mind that there might be people who come from Australia to London just to see Fangirls?
Yeah, there's people who've booked flights. It's mental, like, and they've let us know. They've made TikToks about it. They're on their way, and that's surreal.
Yeah,
I think I might even feel a bit nervous about that if I didn't feel so good about how it's going. Like that's like, oh, pressure's on. But thankfully, look, we've got a week and a half of rehearsals left, and then we've got tech. Yeah. So we've absolutely still got time for me to walk into work and feel like I'm staring up at a tsunami that's about to hit me. Yeah, but right now, Justin, touch wood, let's put this in a time capsule. Right now, I feel really good about it. So let's hope. Yeah.
I love it. I think from everything I've seen and from all the reactions I've seen, it's going very well. And like I said, I'm knocking all the wood, but I don't think you need it. You're going to absolutely smash it. And Yve, again, thank you so much for jumping on and taking out the time in your very busy schedule. Please keep us up to date on the Instagram, and I'm so excited for you.
Oh my gosh, please. Thank you very much for making the time. I really appreciate it. This is really fun. This is really fun to do. Okay, I've literally I'm currently sat in a music practice room at the Lyric Hammersmith. They've got like 1,000,000 rooms. It's so good. So I'm in this music practice room, and then we've got upstairs to the rehearsal room where they are practicing the fake boy band concert in the show. So I'm going to go upstairs and do some screaming, and I hope you have a really nice day.
A massive thank you to Yve Blake for returning to the Theatre Thoughts podcast for this week's episode. Fangirls, a new musical, is playing at the Lyric Hammersmith Theatre in London from the 13th of July until the 24th of August. To get your tickets, head to fangirlsmusical.com or follow the link in this episode's description. This episode was produced by Echidna Audio. Follow them on Instagram at Echidna Audio for all their audio services. Once again, if you enjoyed our podcast, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts and head to the link in this episode's description for our Instagram account, TikTok, YouTube, and Patreon. My name's Justin Clark, and I'll see you next time here on the Theatre Thoughts Podcast.